Bermuda has held a particular place in the imagination, a landscape defined by the light and the sea and a distinct sense of refinement. For Sarah Bray-West, that setting isn't just inspiration, it's foundation. I'm sitting down with Sarah, who has founded Sarah Bray Bermuda, to discuss building a brand rooted in craftsmanship and place. We talk about natural materials, sustainability and longevity of a piece, and how island living shapes aesthetic and intention. From the practical elegance of sun hats to the broader philosophy of resort dressing, this conversation explores how thoughtful design can feel grounded and transportive. Enjoy this conversation. Welcome to Grandma's Silver, where tradition meets today. I'm Allie, your host of the Grandma Silver podcast and founder of the Grand Millennial Lifestyle. Here, we blend aesthetics with nostalgia, engaging in conversations with lifestyle brands, designers, and more to rediscover the timeless charm of the past. Join me as we journey from home to heart, illuminating the past and polishing the present with the gleam of Grandma Silver. Okay, well, Sarah, thanks for being here today. I'm super excited to chat with you.
Same. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, well, I want to have you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everybody what it is that you do.
Oh, goodness. Okay. My name is Sarah Bray-West, and I have a business called Sarah Bray Bermuda, which I started at the beginning of COVID. It's a women's accessories business. It's primarily an online business and primarily focused on my signature product, which is sun hats designed for interchangeable ribbons, but I also dabble in lots of other random things. That's pretty much it. I used to be a editor in New York City for the decade prior to COVID, and that kind of led me to where I am today.
Amazing. Now, I would ask these questions in different order. Was it the writing side that got you into fashion and you wanted to be a writer, or did you always know you wanted to be in the world of fashion? Like, what was that process? We'll start there.
Well, so I grew up in Texas. As a little girl, I grew up outside of Houston in Clear Lake area, which is so random. It's like a random area of Texas. My family was always in the oil and gas industry, so that's why we lived outside of Houston. And then my mom, she was an oil and gas attorney. And I was raised primarily by a single mom. Then for high school, my mom got a job transfer to Tyler, Texas, which is even more random part of Texas, really out in the sticks of East Texas. So that's where I went to high school. We had no fashion. So there was no fashion. There was no interior design, but I did get magazine subscriptions to my house. And I always asked my mom, ever since I was a little girl, I said, for Christmas, these are the subscriptions that I want renewed. Vogue, Teen Vogue. I was asking at 8 years old for Veranda, Architectural Digest, W Magazine. I had W Magazine, the huge copies of it coming to my house, random areas of Texas that we lived because my family was in the oil and gas industry. Looking at magazines was such an escape for me because I think my life was very, I don't want to say plain, but it was it was not New York City. It was not the Hamptons. It was not Palm Beach.
It was not chic.
It was not chic. I'm so grateful that my mom was a successful attorney. So we were privileged. However, there was no fashion happening at my house. Like, if I was lucky, we went to the big mall and I got to go to like Abercrombie, but like mostly I was getting my clothes at Target. But I knew because I got the magazines, I knew about Chanel. I knew about everything because I read them cover to cover. I ripped the pages out of the magazines. Oh, I would rip out pages from Vanity Fair of their like next, I think it was called like Next Bright Things. I would tape them all over my bedroom wall. So like my room was a humongous collage of like Vogue, everything. Like I had the editorials memorized. I knew all about the editors. I could probably list out the masthead of Vogue. And when that documentary, the September issue came out, I might have been a freshman at SMU by then when the September issue came out. And I was like, okay, this is what I really, really, really would like to do. But I never knew a fashion designer,
Yeah. Well, most of us didn't. So how did you go from working in fashion to working, like making it your entire career, deciding to go out on your own?
When I got to high school, I launched even this is before blogs. I think MySpace was existing. I had my MySpace, very fashiony. When I got to high school in Tyler, Texas, I remember my like counselor was like, "Okay, Sarah, you really should do the newspaper. Like, this is probably a better fit for you." And I loved the newspaper, but I only wanted to, of course, in Tyler, Texas, my small high school with 40 kids in the graduating class,
Oh my
I
God.
only wanted to write about fashion. So I literally launched like a fashion section in my high school newspaper. And then I went to SMU. And when I got to SMU, I am in Dallas, which is a very fashionable school. I remember when I went on the tour at SMU from Tyler, Texas, I was like, wow, this student body is seriously fashionable. I am loving this. I had toured other schools in the South. And I had wanted to go to NYU, of course, because, that was what I wanted, but I didn't get
Mhm.
in. My second school I wanted to go to was like UCLA and USC, didn't get in there. But yeah, I went to SMU and I joined the university newspaper, the SMU Daily Campus. I applied to be the fashion editor there. And for all 4 years at SMU, I did the fashion section. Then, of course, I had the Vogue masthead memorized because that was my like hobby. After my freshman year at SMU, I just sent blind emails to all the Vogue editors with the subject line summer intern application. And I attached my resume on my
Wow.
PDF and I applied for Vogue. I applied for Teen Vogue. I told my mom, I said, "Hey, mom, I blindly emailed all of these editors in New York City. So they all want me to come in for an interview. Can we go on spring break to New York City?" And my mom was like, what? And I got it. All the internships, they were like, yes, we'd love for you to be a summer intern. But I did get my dream one, which was Vogue. And so I interned at Vogue. But that's where I met like a lot of people that I still know today and work with is from those summers in New York where I interned at Vogue. The next summer I interned at the New York Times in the fashion section. It was so hard, obviously, and so different than what I was used to being from a small town in Texas. But it was a dream come true. I'm ready to graduate SMU and I'm ready to go to New York City and get my job at Vogue or get my entry level job, like as a assistant of the assistant.
Mhm.
But it was the recession. And I don't know if you remember, but all the magazines were shuttering. The magazines
Yeah.
were really struggling. The internet, Instagram, well, Pinterest was emerging. The blogs were all emerging. Everything was really changing. And I couldn't get a job in New York. Nobody could. They said I could come for an unpaid position, of course. And a
Mhm.
lot of my friends took those unpaid positions in fashion during the recession. But my mom was like, absolutely not. Like, you're not going to New York City after you have a college degree and taking an unpaid job. You need to get a paid job with benefits. Thankfully, I got a job at Neiman Marcus Corporate in Dallas within the corporate public relations department, but I was writing text and doing photos for social media. And then I got a job at Veranda as an editor.
Now,
It's a
how do
long
we go
journey.
from covering brands and design, both interior and fashion, to being your own brand?
One thing I quickly realized when I was in New York, I was an editor at Veranda. I was an editor. Then Veranda merged with House Beautiful and Elle Decor. So I became an editor across all three of those publications before I was an editor for 5 years a writer at Town and Country. But one thing throughout my career as a editor and writer at magazines is just like you with this podcast, with this platform, you're interviewing business owners. Like my job was to interview fashion designers, interior designers, jewelry designers, entrepreneurs. I just loved listening to their stories. I mean, I'm sure you can kind of
Mhm.
probably relate a little bit.
Yeah, I do. I love it. It's great. It's fascinating.
It's fascinating. And like I could have done that job forever except for when I left magazines at the beginning of COVID, when I left the magazine industry. I mean, it's really just not the same. I loved listening to all the stories of these amazing creatives. And I knew pretty early on, I was like, okay, I've got to start a business. This is where it's at. So then I kind of was like, you know what? Until I can figure out how on earth these people have become fashion designers and how on earth they have become jewelry designers or interior designers, I am just going to stay here, at Town and Country and just learn as much as possible. Like be a sponge, learn everything I possibly can about these industries and the world. Right before COVID, I was really getting burnt out. At that time, being an editor, you were paid nothing.
Hmm.
Absolutely nothing. Like, but you were given a lot of free things and you had a lot of great, lovely dinners, wonderful trips. But I was kind of starting to realize, like, okay, I actually have to start making money. Like, I can't, just sell things on, gifts on the real and like make rent. It doesn't work like that. I met my husband on Bumble. He is from Bermuda. He had just finished his master's at Columbia, but while we were dating, while I was still working in New York, he was getting his PhD from Columbia. So he was kind of like back between New York and Bermuda. He had a job in Bermuda. He was working at a bank in Bermuda because Bermuda is like an offshore shore industry. So there's a lot of, offshore industries similar to the Caymans. It was clear that I was probably going to have to move to Bermuda to, keep our relationship going. But I was also burnt out on New York. So it was kind of the perfect time. And then COVID happened. Oh my gosh. Seriously, I had no idea COVID was
Who's
going to
your
happen.
psychic?
I know. I really didn't know. So I was on the path to opening a store in Bermuda. It was just like impossible to open a store in Bermuda during COVID. So I just started posting things on social media, like little things that I was developing for the store, jewelry, my caftans, antique tabletop, and then the hats. And so I quickly set up my Shopify store. Yeah. And then the rest is history, really.
Now, can we talk just for a minute about, I want to talk just this like section of your
Yes.
mindset, your brand, because something that you talk about on your website is sort of this like shift from this world of consumption. Can we talk a little bit about like what this shift did for you in your mind and your like maybe how it reshaped your relationship with consumption and objects and the way that you like the value of having certain things but not all things and what that means to you?
Yes. I mean, that was really huge. Like that is something I noticed when I was an editor at Town and Country. I started to like feel like I just don't care about fashion shows, the fashion cycle. It was getting insane. And like honestly, you would get like my desk would be covered with all of these gifts that I didn't ask for. I was more interested, and I think similarly to your listeners, I was more interested in like vintage silver, sourcing beautiful fabrics and textiles. My interests were really in antiques and vintage
Yep.
rather than this crazy fast fashion world that was really, taking over the industry. Any brand, it was just all made in China. Like even the luxury brands were they're just made in China or abroad. And I just had no interest. Totally burned out. Now, to be honest with you, like I only shop antiques and vintage. I rarely buy anything new. I have to really like it to buy something new. Or I like the story of the small business and the founder. And I feel like, passionate and, putting a lot of thought into the products that they're creating. I would be more wealthy and more successful if I was, getting everything made in China and doing this fast fashion. I'm sure I would, if I had a beauty brand where everything was 10,000 units or 100,000 units of whatever, I just cannot stand it. I genuinely can't. And
Yeah.
I wish that I could be brainwashed. And that's something I struggle with as a small business owner. Like, I don't have that many SKUs on my website. Business consultants would say, launch more products, launch more products. I'm so just not interested in plastic and junk. So I struggle, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
struggle.
Well, can we talk a little? I mean, you're kind of segueing into another part of this question that I had, which was, you touch on vintage, you touch on like plastic, cheap, gross product, all that. What are you doing differently?
So I really was aiming to open like an antique shop,
Hmm.
but also sell like vintage clothes, like and some new things. Obviously, like supplement the antique shop with new things, which a lot of the businesses that I really admire in Palm Beach or West Palm. Danielle Rollins, Meg Braff, Casa Gusto. Those are all antique shops. Like they sell vintage and antiques furniture, but then they supplement their shops with new home accessories or decorative accessories or fashion. And that's really the concept that I love. So the hats were started as like a supplementing a shop with, other fun, beautiful things. And the hats are made 100% with palm leaf. They are made in Texas. They're not made in Bermuda. I'm from Texas. And I use a hat maker in West Texas who has a cowboy hat factory who's been making hats at this factory for like generations. Then I source the ribbons. I try to use vintage ribbons where I can, and I use about half vintage ribbons and then half new ribbons. The grow grain ribbons are typically new. I feel so good about the hats because they're beautiful. They're made with all natural materials. They're not plastic hats. They're not hats that are made in China. And I love that, they're sustainable in the way that you can wear many different ribbons with them. So you don't have to own like 20 hats. You could just buy one hat and change up the look with the ribbons or scarves that you might already own. This is a fashion product that I felt morally I could get behind. I'm still obsessed with them. Like I never tire of them. I feel like they don't go out of style, in my opinion.
So, how has island life changed your perspective around fashion and maybe even also like your perspective about things that are maybe done differently than you see here, just like in the world of production and consumerism? And is there a
Oh my
difference
gosh,
or
so much. Totally huge difference. I've been in Texas this winter because my mom has been sick. So I've been in Texas helping her and so I've gotten back into like the American mindset and then I'll go back into we were in Bermuda most of the summer, and we'll go back to Bermuda Easter through September this year. And so I really get to see the differences. Bermuda is, I mean, I think what the islands, the government is quite strict in Bermuda. So the government prohibits imports greatly in Bermuda. Part of the reason we have to be so innovative and resourceful with how we decorate our houses and how we live is because if you wanted to import like a Serena and Lily sofa, the duties and the taxes for importing it makes the sofa like 5 times the
wow.
price. So people just don't. I mean, unless you're like uber wealthy. So people just don't import things. Everyone has old things. Yeah, it's beautiful actually. It's stunning. And like and then to go to Texas where in Texas
Like, oh,
everyone's like
everything's
new,
bigger.
new, new. Like people are like antiques. I mean, stylish people in Texas have beautiful houses with antiques, but I would say the masses of Texans are like new, new. Like let's get everything in their house is brand new. Like, why? It's a totally different culture, and you are aware because the in Bermuda the government does not allow you to be so wasteful because they don't want like it's a small island. They don't want the landfills filling up. If the island was consuming so much, it would be bad for the environment. Like,
Yeah. What a concept that we would consider that.
I know. And the houses in Bermuda are so beautiful. And the way people entertain there, because they are being resourceful, they're using, antique plates they might have a crack in it, but they don't care. Like,
Broken doesn't mean like ruined.
yes, and I think in the US, if you had a broken plate, you would just throw it in the trash. If your plate had a crack on it, you wouldn't serve it at the dinner table. I mean, I'm talking like a hairline crack. I'm not talking like
Right.
a dangerous thing. In Bermuda, people entertain a lot at home. You're not going out to eat. There's no drive-throughs, there's no chains, and people aren't just like constantly getting new things. So I think the things that they do buy that are new are really special to them and they've thought it out, extensively.
How has that changed? I mean, if it has, correct me if I'm wrong, but like how would working with natural materials, vintage materials in your brand change the process? Like how does that impact your design process compared to just like sourcing and having access to just all the things?
I respond to that really well. You know how like eccentric artists love to live in houses in the middle of nowhere, Maine or
Mhm.
Marfa, Texas. That's how I think I am. Like I am the most creative when I'm isolated. But I also think it's inspiring to go to a place like Palm Beach where we have a house, a cottage in West Palm Beach that we spend a lot of time in. It's inspiring to go to a place like that because there's such a concentration of creatives in West Palm Beach who are doing incredible things. I like a balance, I guess. I like both.
Yeah.
And we don't have we don't have Amazon delivery. We don't have Starbucks. It's in a way it's amazing. Trust me,
Yeah.
I do get my Starbucks when I get back to the US quickly. the thrift stores that I shop at.
Oh, that's
And
so fun. Yeah, I didn't even think the thrifting is probably so fun.
it's really great. The thrifting is awesome because people are not wasteful there,
Yeah,
and it's a very transient island. It's a Because of the offshore industry, there's a lot of people moving to the island from the UK, from Canada, from the US for jobs, but then they might be on like a small, like a 5-year work contract. And then they leave, but then they donate all of their amazing stuff to the thrift stores.
obviously, you know how it is here, right? Like it's a lot about consumption. It is easy to also get into this like comparison game. I think that a lot of times we're being fed the idea that if you love beautiful things, therefore you are materialistic, or people feel guilty for loving beautiful things. But is there a small shift or something that you've noticed, even if it's just like a way? I mean, you've kind of touched on it with like, entertaining even in Bermuda, but anything like if people want to consume more thoughtfully?
Oh my gosh. Well, in America, it's hard to avoid the convenience of Amazon. And I mean, you need Amazon, look, in America for like, necessities. I mean, and I see like on your Instagram, you like all the same images that I do. I mean, I think these rooms that are filled with gorgeous antiques or things that have patina, they are back in a big, big way for stylish people.
Mhm.
And I am so grateful in the States and also in Bermuda for Facebook Marketplace. You're getting the dresser on Facebook Marketplace, that might be like solid oak, but it has some scratches on it. You're getting it for like $50. So how is that materialistic? It's not like $50 antique dresser or is way cheaper than going to IKEA or Target or Home Goods. I think it's the opposite of materialistic to love beautiful things.
No, I love that. And I'm a big Facebook marketplace girl.
Yes.
I love the thrill of the hunt. I do.
It's
Thrifting,
addictive.
antiquing, all of those things.
I don't know. The antiques that you cannot replicate the quality and the craftsmanship of
No,
these
yeah.
antiques and these vintage items.
It's January at the time of our recording, new year, fresh goals, fresh perspective. What is next for you?
Well, I'm definitely going to still continue to, improve and grow like my core collection of sun hats. But this past year, in 2025, I launched jewelry, which is all made with vintage elements that I add like shells and charms to. And I've had a lot of great feedback from it. It's super small batch, obviously, and one of a kind, but it's going to be carried at Erin in Palm Beach. I'm so pumped about that. And then I have some exciting wholesale accounts coming that I'm excited about. Like my hats are going to be at Ann Mashburn. I still sell them at Tuckernuck and on Erin, Over the Moon. I have a Mother's Day collaboration with Minnow coming out, which is really
So
cute.
fun.
Yeah. So I have so many things that I'm excited about. I would love this year to just launch like more handbags that I feel like I can get behind that have kind of like a sustainable or vintage element to them.
Well, you mentioned some of the different stores people could physically find your products. And then I also know, like you mentioned a few websites as well, like Tucker Nuck, but where can people find you specifically?
Yes, the best place to shop is sarahbraybermuda.com. Don't worry, we do not ship from Bermuda, so you will get your package quickly. So we actually ship from Texas. My two cousins have worked with me from day one because the hats are made in Texas. When we get your order, it prepared by my cousins or me and shipped. And yeah, so grateful for them and for everyone.
Amazing. And I will also add that I'll put the website and social media links in the show notes of the episode so people will be able to click there and find you as well. But Sarah, thank you so much for taking the time to chat today. This was wonderful.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel like we could talk forever.
We could. I'm sure we could.